James Delingpole, first-time guest with us, and he has authored this book. It's called Welcome to Obamaland. I have seen your future and it doesn't work. Mr. Delingpole, you're right that to look at the current president's future, look no further than the UK and Tony Blair. What do you mean?
12 years ago, we were going through the same thing that you're going through in America now. We'd just elected this wonderful new guy who looked great in a suit, nice smile, plausible manner. We thought he was going to change our world. And 12 years on, we discovered that he hasn't. Well, he's only changed it for the worse. We're poorer, we're more heavily regulated, and I fear that that is the future that awaits America.
How long did that take in the UK, what you just described?
Well, it was amazing how Tony Blair kept piling on regulation after regulation, and people didn't seem to notice. It was almost because we benefited from having a sound economy at the same time. People felt that because they had their nice holidays and their iPods and things, it didn't matter what was going on in government. It didn't matter how much their freedoms were being taken away from them. It's slightly different in America, of course, now because you have a Great Depression approaching, and so that's going to double the disaster.
We'll bring it back here to the U.S. and President Obama then. What are the policies that you've seen and have heard about here that make you write what you write?
One of the things that concerns me is his plans for universal health care. We've had this thing called the NHS, the National Health Service, in Britain for 50 years, and we call it the envy of the world. Well, it's only the envy of the world if you live somewhere like Burkina Faso or Albania. It's actually typical of what happens when the state gets involved in systems that should be kept private. You're treated as a supplicant rather than as a customer.
Numbers on the bottom of the screen for our guest, James Delingpole, for Republicans, Democrats, and Independents. The topic here is President Obama, popularity versus effective leadership, I guess is a good way to look at this. Does one blend into the other? Again, our guest is from the UK, and he's a first-time guest here with C-SPAN. The book is titled Obamaland, I Have Seen Your Future and It Doesn't Work. Back to the comparisons with Tony Blair. Can the case not be made that Tony Blair's support for Iraq started causing him problems?
You will not find me disagreeing with Tony Blair's stance on the war on terror. It was the one principal thing the man did in his political career, and Americans see him as something of a hero for standing shoulder to shoulder with W. He got the problem in a way that some leaders still don't. The problem is that his domestic policy was a disaster. I'll give you another example. He seems to have subscribed to all the great myth about global warming. I could shave $400 million off your new stimulus package right now just by saying don't bother with that research into climate change because climate is changing all the time.
What about the media? Compare and contrast. What you're seeing in the U.S. media and elsewhere, for that matter.
It's the same. Adulation, total adulation. It's people like to believe in myths. People want to be able to dream, and people looked at Tony Blair and they really thought that he had this thing called the third way, the idea that you could have a healthy, strong economy and at the same time social justice without business being hamstrung by regulation. But it didn't happen. People believed it would happen, but it didn't.
And you're seeing the same media situation here?
Very much. I mean, talk about an amen corner. It's completely uncritical, apart from some of the right-wing talk shows. But generally, the adulation is just the same. And many of my conservative friends at the time of Tony Blair, they believed in the Blair project, and I think it's the same here. The conservatives over here really think that this guy is different.
Let's get to the calls for our guest, James Delingpole. Minneapolis, you're up first. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Why can't, okay, you look at the older people and the poor, they have to live on fixed incomes, and the richer people don't live like the poor people do. And then I have friends.
Caller, move this to the specific topic. It's popularity and effective leadership. Does one necessarily mean the other?
No.
Why not?
Because leadership is taking over a nation, and popularity is being with the people. And we need somebody that's going to be stable with the economy, and we don't need leadership or popularity.
Thanks, Mr. Delingpole.
I think one of the terrible things that's happened to politics in the last few years, that it's become far too much about personalities and far too much about pleasing focus groups and keeping everyone happy, and not enough about ideology and principles. That's one of the reasons that I'm on the right, because I believe that liberty is the right way forward for everyone, that low taxes make everyone richer, not just the rich people.
Marietta, California, you're on the air. Hi there.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Paul. The gentleman, he's right down my alley, Paul. I'm sorry. And please don't punch the button. I have two quotes for our listening audience.
Go for it.
First of all, it was Maggie Thatcher, bless her heart, who said the problem with socialism is that sooner or later you're running out of other people's money. And I'd like to back that up with something Winston Churchill said years ago, which I think still stands. The inherent vice of capitalism is the uneven division of blessings, while the inherent virtue of socialism is the equal division of misery.
Plug that into this conversation if you could.
Well, I'm with Winston Churchill and Margaret Thatcher all the way, and may I say that another of my heroes is Ronald Reagan, who said that government is the problem, it's not the solution. And he's absolutely right.
So then, based on what you just said, what do you make of this whole picture in this country right now, where the government is very much being asked to get involved? Otherwise, a catastrophic situation could take place.
I can see that in times of crisis, people look to government to dig them out of a hole. But there are ways and means, aren't there? There's no question that what the economy needs now is liquidity. But, and yeah, it needs an injection of capital. But I don't think what it does need is special projects like what is it, eco cars for the presidential staff and global warming research. You know, there's a lot of pork barreling going on, a lot of advancing a liberal social agenda, which has got nothing to do with stimulating the economy.
When we look at popularity of a president, of a leader, it might translate into a certain amount of political capital to try to get an agenda forward. What do you see here?
Well, that's what Rahm Emanuel's saying, isn't it? That this crisis is a good thing because it's going to help advance the liberal cause. But I think we need to get beyond that into understanding what it is that really makes an economy work, what's going to rescue the economy fastest. And I think low taxes, low regulation is what it needs, and the stimulation of capital.
Next call, Wesley Hills, New York. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Willie O'Brien here in Wesley Hills, New York, to your guest this morning. I wanted to ask him, don't you think that the title of his book is 8 years late? I think that he's talking about the wrong person. I think that his book should have been published 8 years ago, about the popularity of George Bush.
Right.
What do you make of that caller's comparison?
Gosh, this is the first time I've been asked to defend W. My main beef with W is that he was a compassionate conservative, and I think that compassionate conservatism is fake conservatism. It's effectively liberalism disguised as conservatism. I mean, okay, his foreign policy was quite right-wing, but I think his domestic policy was essentially a liberal policy. It was about high tax.
What did he do well?
Spending.
What did he do well?
What did he do well? The fact that you have not had an attack on home soil since 9/11, I think, speaks volumes for his achievements. I think it's an extraordinary thing, but unfortunately the guy hasn't been given credit for something that didn't happen.
Our guest writes for the American conservative newsweekly Human Events, as well as the Times of London, the Daily Telegraph, the Spectator. He is James Delingpole, author of this book, Welcome to Obamaland. How did you come to think the way that you think? What were your influences?
P.J. O'Rourke. I love P.J. O'Rourke because I'm a libertarian conservative. I believe that we should be allowed to get on with doing what the hell we want, as long as it doesn't infringe on somebody else's freedom to get on and do what the hell they want. And I think that's a good motto for us all. Live and let live, I say.
Back to the media. We talked about that earlier. The media in the UK, the media here, and these two leaders, Mr. Obama, Mr. Blair. Is it your sense that the media at some point turned on Tony Blair? How did that all play out?